Good afternoon, and welcome to the Wednesday afternoon conference call with Trusts Unlimited. This is Jim George speaking. I'm the non-attorney spokesman and facilitator for Trusts Unlimited, and I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to this call, particularly those of you calling in for the first time and those that will be listening to the replay over the next 24 to 48 hours. For the last few months, we've been truncating our calls, dealing primarily with the situation as it evolves in Iraq, and also because we had a substantial amount of client work to be done over the last decade. We've accumulated literally thousands of trust clients, and our first objective must be to serve them as needs arise. Then, of course, we did have a little bit of a complication with YouTube, who evidently the powers that be didn't like the truth-telling that's been going on here on a weekly basis, and so we've been able to circumvent that, and I'm going to get into that a little bit today. But today I'm going to give it a shot and try to do a full-blown call, which will involve, of course, discussions about what's going on in Iraq and around the Middle East and the world, then the turnkey program we've put in place to assist you, and then hope to go to a brief Q&A thereafter. I haven't done a full-blown call in a while, and having done them for so long, it was pretty much rote, and I just was able to, by memory, touch on all of the important issues. I doubt very seriously I'm going to be on point today, but I certainly will do the best to relay the information I think is relevant. I may need to do a little backtracking, or I may stutter from here and there, but I will try to get the information out to you. But before we begin, I want to go ahead and give you the methods that you can contact us in circumvention of what YouTube and those folks are up to. I'm going to give you the live call number. Now, obviously, if you're on the call, you don't need the live call number, but individuals that go to our website will be able to get that number if I announce it here by listening to the replay. So to listen to our live Wednesday calls, you would dial 720-716-7300. If you want to listen to the replays, you could either dial a series of numbers that I'm going to give you, or you could just go to our website and I'll give you that information. The downside in calling the numbers is you're only going to get the most recent call. So if you want to listen to a replay from a specific date, and the dates that I've mentioned in the past were June 2nd and September 22nd, and that was during the time period where we weren't doing a full-blown call. But the numbers to call, first you would call 206-451-6012. You would then dial 605-313-5163. Then you would use the same access code, which is 739394#. Or you can go to our website, which is Trusts with an S, Unlimited, LLC.com. You would then click the Learn More box. You would then click the Conference Calls box, and then you would select whatever date or dates that you'd like to listen to. So I know it's a little bit more work, but again, YouTube's attempt to silence us is not going to be tolerated, so we're going to do whatever we have to do on our end to make sure that the information is available to whomever wants to listen. So let's go ahead and get into a little bit of a situation as it is evolving in Iraq. First, by way of disclaimer, Trusts Unlimited is not the purveyor of the dinar and these other currencies. We're not advocating either the sale or purchase of these currencies, but as rather substantial currency holders ourselves, we're sharing with you the information we believe to be relevant. And, of course, the most relevant piece of information would be the window for the potential reinstitution and then revaluation of the Iraqi dinar, and hopefully currencies some of the other currencies as well. While there are individuals that are pulling out all stops to try to, at the very least, defer this, if not stop it, all the way to January if possible, in my view, and I've been on the phone this morning, a reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar could occur at any time. And I'll discuss in a little bit more detail the things going on which lead us to that conclusion. If we take the 35,000-foot view and looking down, this is what we see. We see that the nation-state of Iraq is clearly open for business. First, although it's not necessarily good for a lot of industries, we see that the price of a barrel of oil today is now $84 for a barrel of crude. Now, from the standpoint of the Iraqi economy and from the very narrow view of those of us that just want to go to the bank and do our exchange, this is the silver thread in the black cloud of high oil prices not being good, generally speaking. But because the price of a barrel of crude is now at $84, that means that the Iraqi government will no longer have to borrow to cover its shortfalls, because the rise in the price of oil, which may continue, is creating a surplus. It means that the Iraqi government can close their budget shortfall. It means that they can get current on payments to Kurdistan and for some of the international infrastructure contracts that are in place. Iraq now is participating in the 2021 Dubai International Expo. And, of course, this is a global business expo, and to be part of this expo is very important for Iraq, both short-term and long-term. In addition, the Arab Monetary Fund and the International Monetary Fund have jointly initiated a public course on exchange rate policy. Now, we've been told for years now that prior to the reinstitution and revaluation of the dinar, there would have to be an education program. But we considered that program to be something initiated by the CBI within Iraq, and that, of course, is still true. However, these two organizations are not only Middle Eastern organizations, but they're global. So what this public course on exchange rate policy is doing is it's basically declaring to the world that there are going to be some huge changes in exchange rates, not just for Iraq, but for Vietnam, for Indonesia, for Iran, for Jordan, for Kuwait, for a lot of other countries. There's going to be a stepped-up value, whether it's an outright revaluation of a currency in a program rate, or whether it's a currency that simply has not been recalculated based on Basel III compliance. So this is all very, very good news. And once again, we continue to move in the right direction, which is why I still am of the view that a reinstatement of the dinar could happen at any time. Now, I don't want to belabor the subject, but of course those of you that have been listening for any length of time know that I really want to see a revaluation in the first half of a given quarter, and even better, in the first month of a given quarter, because it allows us time to determine what the actual tax status of the revaluation is to us, and it also gives us time to hold the currency if it comes out at a float. Although even if the dinar and some of these other currencies come out at a float, it's my opinion that it's going to move rather quickly to an equilibrium price. So, for example, if the dinar were to be reinstituted at $1 and then instantly revalued, or shortly thereafter revalued at $1, I see no reason why it wouldn't quickly return to the $3.22 that it was worth when it was initially put into a program rate. So this is all looking very, very good. Now, what I'd like to do now, and what I haven't done for some months, is move to an explanation of the turnkey program we've put in place to assist you. When we began doing this over a decade ago, We made the decision because it was our view that at some point the dinar and these other currencies would revalue and it would be a substantial increase in value. We also knew that a vast majority of the individuals that hold dinar and other currencies are middle-class, hardworking people who for the first time in their life will have to manage a substantial amount of wealth. And so we thought this program would be helpful to them. So we made the decision to go ahead and proceed. And what we decided to do was to establish a package of irrevocable trusts because it's our view that considering everything involved, it's the best asset protection and wealth protection that's available. There are some other things we could have done, and I want to touch on them. Some individuals have advocated the establishment of LLCs and sub-S corporations, and they do provide some level of asset protection, but primarily dividing business assets from personal assets. The problem here is that the possession of these currencies is a personal asset. In addition, courts have ruled that LLCs and sub-S corporations, and in some cases family limited partnerships, if they're owned by an individual or a closely held family or group in the majority, that is the majority of the stock, they can be pierced for civil litigation. So that's not going to work for us. Some individuals have established something called a revocable trust, also referred to as a living or a loving trust. Now, these are statutory trusts designed on a state-by-state basis. They're designed primarily to exempt an individual's estate from the cost and delay of probate, and in some cases, if properly structured, substantially reduce and even eliminate the federal estate tax. However, the problem with these trusts is that they can provide no privacy or asset protection, certainly no tax protection, so that's not going to work for you. Some individuals have established individual irrevocable trusts, and they will provide more privacy and asset protection than the previous entities I just described. But even an individual irrevocable trust has an inherent flaw, and it's this. Because all of the assets are within one single trust or legal entity, any asset within that trust that's involved in civil litigation could necessarily drag all of the other assets in your net worth into that litigation as well. So that's not going to work for you either. The best asset protection is the protection that we've established, which is a package of irrevocable trusts. Now, I'm going to get in the weeds a little bit here, but I want to explain this to you because in the current environment we're in, politically and economically, this trust package, which I'm going to describe in more detail, is not only extremely valuable and necessary if you are a currency holder, but now it's an indispensable entity whether you hold currencies or not. Now, most people that talk about irrevocable trusts are led to believe that they eliminate the control of the individual for the assets in the trust. That's not entirely true, and I'll explain why. There are essentially two types of irrevocable trusts. I'm simplifying this for you, but the first type is what's referred to as an institutional irrevocable trust. Now, what is that? That is a trust that one can establish if they go to a bank or a brokerage firm or a trust company. The trust is set up, but the bank or the brokerage firm or the trust company is the trustee of the trust. They establish the terms and the parameters of the trust, substantially eliminating your input even though the assets within the trust are yours. That is not the trust that we've established. We have established a very little known but extremely beneficial trust package. It's referred to as a self-settled irrevocable trust. It means that you did not go to a third party or a company to utilize their trust. It means, pursuant to the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution and your right to contract, you've established a trust, which is a contract yourself. You name your trustee, you establish the terms of the trust. You may place assets in the trust and remove them as you wish. You may amend the terms of the trust as you wish. You may name your trustee, and you may replace that trustee at any time and for any reason. So this trust provides as much direct control as the law will allow, while at the same time providing the asset protection, the privacy, and even the tax benefits that I'm going to touch on. But if you are a holder of currencies or any asset that you anticipate a substantial increase in value, you need to establish this trust prior to that asset appreciating, and I'm going to give you the reasons why. First, by establishing this trust package, you will preserve your privacy and your anonymity. That's because assets within this trust package are sealed, meaning that the general public will have no knowledge of your net worth or your actual holdings. Second, by establishing this trust package, you will avoid IRS scrutiny. If you are holding these currencies in direct title, when they revalue, the IRS will most likely spit out an audit. And with the potential magnitude of this revaluation relative to your prior year's earnings, you're probably looking at a full-blown 6-year audit. Such an audit would be time-consuming. It would certainly be frustrating because it's come along at the precise time that these currencies are revalued, and there's many other much more important things you'd rather be doing. And third, the cost of this asset protection trust package would be less than the cost of a 6-year audit. And given some of the nonsense buried in this non-infrastructure infrastructure bill from the Biden administration, the IRS is going to be on the hunt, and they've been given $84 billion to assist them in that effort. On the other hand, if you've established your self-settled asset protection trust package prior to the revaluation of these currencies, and if you have assigned those currencies on paper to that trust package, you will have successfully transferred the taxable event of this revaluation from yourself personally to the trust. Now, this is important for a couple of reasons. We know that there's only a 10% chance of an audit if the revaluation of these currencies were to occur within a rather sophisticated trust package such as ours. And second, and most importantly, even if the IRS determines to audit your trust, they can't do a 6-year audit. Why? Because the only taxable event within the trust will be the revaluation itself. The third reason you'd want to establish this trust package is if you plan on gifting currencies to family and friends. Now, philanthropic gifting can always be done on a tax-preferred basis, either pre- or post-RV. But in order to avoid a substantial 40% federal gift tax, you're going to need to give currencies to family and friends prior to the revaluation. Now, if you're gifting to individuals that you have no problem giving them the currency to exchange for themselves, or giving them the U.S. dollar lump sum after you have negotiated the exchange, this can be accomplished outside of a trust with a standard gift letter. But if you are hesitant for any reason to give these individuals the post-RV lump sum, then you can gift to them through the specially established gift subtrust, which is part of our package. Now, because you're gifting through this trust package, their U.S. dollars will be protected along with yours. In addition, the specific language of this subtrust allows you to gift up to a certain amount of a currency or currencies, meaning you can gift to them the exact U.S. dollar amount that you had in mind, irrespective of the exchange rate. And lastly, because you're gifting through this gift subtrust, you will be able to manage, invest, and distribute the money to these individuals as you deem appropriate. The fourth reason you'd want to establish this trust package is because it will allow you to avoid the cost and delay of probate and the federal estate tax. I'll give you 2 quick scenarios. Scenario number 1, you purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000. The day after that, those currencies revalue for $25 million. The day after that, you pass away, leaving your heirs an estate of $25 million. Now, that estate must go through probate, a process that ordinarily can take anywhere from 6 to 18 months. But probate is a public disclosure process, meaning that the general public will be aware of the size of your estate, who your heirs are, and how much they each stand to inherit. So if anyone feels they have a legitimate claim against you, your estate, or your heirs, they can simply file that claim with the probate court. And that could tie the estate up for years, and in some cases even decades. And your heirs will have either limited access or no access at all to their respective inheritance until the probate process is completed. Then there's something called the federal estate tax. This is the tax that the federal government would assess in order for that estate to be transferred to your heirs. Under current law, approximately $10 million of that $25 million estate would be exempt from the federal estate tax. But the balance could be taxed as much as 65%. Now, this scenario is not only unacceptable, it's completely and totally avoidable. How? Scenario number 2. You purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000. The day after that, you assign those currencies on paper to our asset protection trust package. The day after that, those currencies revalue for $25 million. The day after that, you pass away, leaving your heirs that very same estate of $25 million, but this time protected in our asset protection trust package. As a result, there will be no probate. There will be no public disclosure of your estate. Your heirs will have immediate access to their respective inheritance, and the federal estate tax will be zero, saving your heirs as much as 55% of their estate. The fifth reason you'd want to establish this trust package is for some very specific asset protection benefits. One pre-RV, one post-RV. Pre-RV, this trust package will allow you to circumvent something called the Uniform Fraudulent Transfer Act. Now, what does that mean? Under our system of civil procedure, you can only be sued for what you actually own in direct title or the value of property at the time you transfer it out of title to an entity like our trust package. So let's take the previous example from before. You purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000, transfer those pre-RV currencies to your trust. They subsequently revalue for $25 million. You begin to live a lifestyle more reflective of your newfound wealth, and a couple of years down the road, someone sees that you're living rather comfortably and decides for whatever reason that they're going to sue you. Well, this prospective plaintiff has a couple of problems. First, he or she better have very deep pockets and a very strong case, because this trust has been structured in such a way as to make it extremely expensive and extremely time-consuming to pursue civil litigation. But second, and most importantly, once any prospective plaintiff learns that pursuant to the Uniform Fraudulent Transfer Act, the only thing they could ever win by way of a civil award would be $5,000. The values of the currency at the time you transferred them out of title to our trust package, and none of the post-RV value of $25 million, there will be no lawsuit. Post-RV, there's a benefit I like to refer to as limited liability stop-loss. This is accomplished through a legal strategy called segregation of assets. This is why we've established a package of trusts. This is why it's the best asset protection available domestically, and I'll give you an example of how it would work. Once again, we'll use the initial example. You purchased 5 million dinar for $5,000. You transferred the currencies to the trust. They subsequently revalued for $25 million. Now that you have $25 million in trust, you decide to make some purchases. So you purchase a larger primary residence, a vacation home, perhaps a half a dozen rental properties for tax write-off and additional cash flow, a couple of cars, a boat, and an RV. But as you purchase these items, you place each of them in their own separate subtrust to be managed by the master trust. This is what constitutes the package. And let's say one day you're driving one of your new cars, you have an accident, the accident is clearly your fault, and tragically someone is seriously injured or even killed. Well, understandably, the family of the victim is going to want to sue you. But remember, civil suits are about monetary awards, and you don't legally own anything. So the plaintiffs would be left to sue the owner of the car that you were driving. Well, who owns that car? One of your subtrusts of which you are merely the beneficiary. And what's in that subtrust? Merely that one car and the car insurance policy. In that scenario, the car insurance carrier will negotiate an out-of-court settlement with the victim's family. You will mercifully not be involved in those rather unpleasant negotiations. The car insurance carrier will repair or replace your car, making you whole. And this is important. All of your other assets and net worth that are in the other subtrusts are safe and protected. Why? Because under the law, those separate subtrusts are separate legal entities or persons having nothing whatsoever to do with the accident, and the plaintiff would have no standing to pursue them. So this trust package works very much the way a commercial barge would work, where all of the valuable cargo is stored in a series of small compartments. Why? In the event that any compartment is ever breached, the only potential loss would be the cargo in that one compartment. The cargo in the other compartments is safe and secure due to the firewalls, and the barge will never sink. Now, our trust package is initially a package of 10 trusts consisting of one master trust that will hold your pre-RV assigned currencies, pre-RV, and post-RV will hold financial assets like bank accounts, investment accounts, etc. One optional gift subtrust, which can at any time be converted to a standard subtrust, and then 8 additional standard subtrusts. Now, this was the simplification of a rather sophisticated trust package that we've used for our more affluent clients over the years, a package that had an initial cost of anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000. But when we decided to work with Dinarians, we knew that that price tag would be unaffordable for many. So by simplifying and back-end loading this trust package, we've been able to make it available pre-RV for the one-time price of $3,000. Now, there are several ways you can pay for that. If you pay us up front, we'll discount the price further to $2,500, saving you an additional $500. If that's not possible, we have a deferred payment arrangement. You'd make an initial payment of $525, which sum would basically offset our initial out-of-pocket cost just to produce and deliver your trust to you. The balance of the $3,000 would be made through $100 monthly installments. The only proviso is once the revaluation of the Iraqi dinar occurs, any unpaid balance would then need to be paid within 30 days. One other suggestion, we do accept credit cards. Pay us up front with a credit card. Not only will you get the $500 discount, but the minimum payment on your card would be substantially less than the $100 a month you'd pay under our deferred payment arrangement. But we will work with you in whatever method works best for you. Now, one other thing I want to mention is this. Our turnkey program is, in fact, twofold. Phase 1, of course, is pre-RV, which is the establishment of this trust package for all of the reasons that I've stated. But Phase 2 involves all the products and services and professional referrals that will be made available to those who do have our trust package. And I'll just make mention of one here today. Trusts Unlimited will be sponsoring a post-RV seminar to be held in Disney World, Florida, approximately 30 days after the revaluation of the Iraqi dinar. Now, present at that seminar will, of course, be the staff of Trusts Unlimited to assist you with the management and funding of your trust packages. In addition, many of our clients have already expressed a desire to establish scholarship funds, foundational trusts, special needs trusts, charitable remainder trusts, and even the more complicated 501c3 and nonprofit trusts and organizations. And the proper way to fund those entities is with the direct transfer of funds from your asset protection trust to those newly formed entities. We'll also have our tax specialist there. Since the accumulation of this amount of wealth over such a short period of time, and in consideration of the current administration that's concocting every method of taxation, you're going to want every sophisticated tax strategy available to legally minimize your tax liability. And we'll also have our independent fee-based wealth managers there as well. You're going to want to reposition assets for a number of reasons. First, we know statistically that 95% of all windfalls, however large and from whatever source, are lost within 3 to 5 years due to inexperience, mismanagement, and fraud. We also know that under the new G20 bank bail-in provisions, the failure of banks in the future will no longer be made whole through the general taxing authority of the respective governments, but first and foremost by the confiscation of funds at those banks. Lastly, with regard to the banks, the international agencies are pushing very, very hard to create their digital currency. A digital currency eliminates much of the control an individual would ordinarily have over their funds, so this is another reason to move money out of the banks and other markets. Lastly, the general global shift from fiat-based to Basel III commodity-backed currencies in and of itself is going to create extremely volatile markets and create inflation. So we want to move our money out of those areas and go into tangible assets where we have more control and whether we have a much better possibility of asset growth in an inflationary environment. Now, as I said, our trust package is initially a package of 10 trusts with an initial and sole cost of $3,000. I'm going to give you our contact information when we get to the Q&A, and we're going to go to the Q&A in just a moment. But before we do, and for our newer callers, I'd like to tell you just a little bit about Trusts Unlimited and why you should seriously consider contacting us to get our initial no-obligation informational package. I will state here that the package does include everything you need should you decide to apply for one of our trust packages, but you are under absolutely no obligation to do so. But you do need all of this information in order to make an educated decision about how to proceed. Now, our trust package was authored by our attorney, Robert Bly. He's been a practicing attorney now for over 41 years, specializing in the areas of estate planning, asset protection, and offshore planning. I myself hold degrees in political science, macroeconomics, and finance. I've worked in these areas for over 39 years, and I and my clients were personally involved in the reinstitution of the Kuwaiti dinar in the early 90s. So between the two of us, Robert Bly and I have about 80 years of experience working precisely in this area, and I frankly know of no firm that can make that claim. Now, there are a number of reasons why individuals need to establish such a trust, particularly those of you that hold these pre-valued currencies, but frankly, anybody who's accumulated any wealth at all. If you've lived for any length of time, you've either experienced in your own life or through friends and family things like unexpected divorce, permanent incapacitation, the onset of dementia, premature death, and prolonged and complicated probate processes. Then there are investment losses, business losses, and even bankruptcies. The number 2 loss of wealth now, courtesy of the information age, is identity theft. But that's in the aggregate. But the number 1 loss of individual personal wealth is confiscation through civil litigation. anything you own in direct title can be taken from you. So in point of fact, the only way that you can manage, protect, and control everything at all times and in all circumstances is through the establishment of a package of irrevocable trusts, and particularly if you have an asset like these currencies that you're anticipating a substantial increase in value. And we at Trust Unlimited will do everything we can to help you accomplish your personal and financial objectives, both pre- and post-RV, as we understand them. Thanks so much for listening to the call. I'm going to go to the Q&A in a minute. I suggest those of you calling in for the first time and might be interested in getting our package, have a pen and paper handy, because I will go ahead and give you our contact information again. Okay, let me give you that contact information. You can go to our website, which is trusts with an S, unlimitedllc.com. And again, that's where you want to go to listen to the replay due to the issues with YouTube. Our email address is trusts with an S, unlimitedllc@gmail.com. Our phone service is 307-274-4122. If you'd like to listen to a recent conference call playback, again, you can go to our website. You also can go to our website if you'd like to be included on our email list. You'll go to the website, go to the bottom, enter your name and email address where indicated. You should be on our email list within 24 hours. Bear in mind that we only send emails out very periodically, pre-RV, although an email may go out as early as this week with regard to the new protocols for listening to our replay calls. But certainly after the reinstitution of the Iraqi Dinar, our marketing calls are going to stop, and all the other information about our trust, about the exchange process, and all the post-RV issues will be dealt with on our weekly calls, and information should go out in our emails to reflect that. So let's go to our calls here. Our first call is from area code 210. That's 210. Go ahead.
Hey, Jim. Good morning. It's Ted from San Antonio.
Yes, sir. How are you?
I had my trust, had it for a long time, and I've added my dinar and added my dong to it, but I added it saying all of the dinar, all of the dong. Do you need to put an amount in, or is that good enough?
No, you don't need to put an amount, and I'll give you two reasons why. Number one, the language there says basically any and all pre-valued currencies in your possession or that you should subsequently acquire. So it covers future purchases after you set up the trust. In addition, there are individuals who've contacted me and said, Jim, I got 10 million dinar, but you know what? I want to put 9 million in the trust, and I want to hold $1 million out to do some things. Even if that tax status thing isn't resolved, I still want to go ahead and do that, and you certainly can. It's up to you if you want to place it all in there. That's your discretion.
Okay. Second question is, I haven't opened it up in any bank or anything. I know you have a letter. Once we able to do that you'll send us, or we'll be able to get from you to where it'll state
yes.
that it's.
Well, we don't recommend setting up bank accounts pre-RV, because if you go to Bank A to do the exchange, they're gonna make you disclose to them anything that's involving the trust. So if you got accounts at other banks, they're going to may try to put a hold on your money at their bank just to work the float if they get suspicious. So you don't want to set up another account for that reason and other reasons as well. And there was a second thing I wanted to mention. So what was your question again? I'm sorry. Give me that question again. I forgot to say.
No, it was on the letter. You have a.
Yes, the letter. There is a letter that we're going to be putting on our in the email, and we're going to be dispersing, which explains to the bank that this is not a business trust. Some banks will not work with a business trust. This is not a business trust. It's got some elements which are similar to a business trust, but it's not a business trust. That's another reason why we don't even want people to go to the banks, because they're not going to be armed with what they need if the bank questions them about whether this is a business trust or not. So again, once the reinstitution happens, that's going to trigger the release of a lot of information.
Okay. Well, that's all I have. I appreciate your calls. Thank you very much.
Certainly. Thank you, sir. Bye-bye. Okay, our next caller is, wow, he looks like a blast from the past. This is 312. That's 312. Go ahead.
What's up? It's Glass in Chicago. My man, Jim. What's going on?
You tell me, brother. I haven't heard from you in a while.
Well, you haven't had your Q&A in a while. I mean,
okay. I got you. Gotcha.
I got your number.
Gotcha.
I can send you a text. How's the professor?
Everything's fine, although unfortunately you may not be aware of it, but unfortunately about a month ago his wife passed away. His wife for 53 years, so, it's been a little rough, but he's hanging in there.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned that. I do remember that. Well, I hope he stays well.
Appreciate that. Thanks.
Yeah, tell him I said hi. The inflated cost per barrel, $84+. The shipping containers that are at the ports here in the U.S. with all that foreign stuff on it that's not being unloaded. And we have inflation by way of lack of products and price gouging that's going to be happening soon. Does any and all of that affect the increase of the exchange rate for the currencies we're holding?
I don't think it will. I think that the rates, as we've always considered them, there's a lot of possibilities. We could get a float. It could be as low as 1-to-1 with the dollar, although in my opinion it'll quickly go to the 322, which was the rate when they went into a program rate. I think north of $4 is entirely possible, and we could see as much as $5 for the dinar. Now, the inflation thing was a self-inflicted wound. The administration's just, it's hard to believe that they're this stupid. It's got to be on purpose. I think I don't want to get too much into the politics, but in order for them to institute the quote-unquote Great Reset, they need a bad situation. And
they're making it.
You can argue, if you want, whether they're doing this on purpose or not, but if they wanted to create a crisis, what would they do differently?
I agree.
And again, they want to dump a $5 trillion. They say 3.5. They want to dump a $5 trillion infrastructure bill. Mm-hmm. You flood the economy with that much helicopter money, the prices are going to go straight up. But that doesn't mean that your salary goes up. So
right.
to me, this is just my opinion. I think this is a coup de grace of the middle class. They're trying to destroy the middle class, in my opinion. That's what I think they're doing. And if you study Marxism, progressivism, socialism, social democracies, just look at Venezuela. What did they do? They destroyed the middle class. You're either uber rich, 1%, or you're the other 99% eating out of trash cans.
Okay. All right. Well, given the fact that Iraq has a contract, or they based their budget on, I think it was less than $50 per barrel, right?
I think it was $42 a barrel, and they're twice that right now.
That's where I'm going. They are twice that right now. Now, that being said, them being twice where they created their budget, and then a few years ago, can't remember the guy's name, he was talking $16 to the U.S. dollar.
Yeah, Shabibi was saying the right number would be $16.
And that was at a lower price per barrel.
Well, yeah, I was going to say that was an even aggressive number based on the economic environment at the time.
Okay.
It's the calls I'm on. They're all over the map. People are saying as much as that. People are saying no. It's going to be $3 to $4. Other people are saying, we're going to have these outrageous contract rates if you do this or you do that. we're just going to have to wait and see. I know what I'm going to do personally and the options that I can explain to you when we know what they're doing, but I can't say I would do this or I would do this. I can't tell you what I'm going to do. Is he going to throw a left hook or a right cross? I don't know. I got to see what he's going to do first so I know how to respond.
All righty. All right. Well, I'm glad you got the Q&A back open. Good to talk to you again. Thanks for taking my call. And say
nice talk with you too, Les. Take care.
All right, Jim.
Bye-bye. Well, Les was our last caller for this afternoon. Again, I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to this call. I frankly haven't done a complete call for some time, so actually I think it went pretty well. I was a little worried I'd lose my way or lose my track, but I think I pretty much touched on everything I wanted to. If the things we've discussed are of interest, and they should be to every American, not just people that have currencies, but people that want to preserve their wealth for what I think's coming, I strongly suggest you contact us to get our initial no-obligation package. It does include everything you need if you decide to proceed with applying for a trust, but you are under no obligation to do so, and you will get a lot of valuable information by receiving this package. Now, we will be back next week. Certainly, if something of a dramatic nature were to happen between now and then, we'll try to get out an emergency email and schedule an emergency conference call. But failing that, we will be back next Wednesday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. Have a great week. Bye-bye.